All right. Um, welcome back. My name is Jose. For those who don't know, I do what I like to call microastrology, and I wanted to talk today about, microastrology. I'd like to call it that way because I work with a lot of asteroids, like over 150. Super fun. It goes into super just crazy amounts of details, like things that people like. How did you see that? It's like, mm. so. Yeah, I think it's even blows my mind. It's just like, so anyways, I wanted to talk today about when we look at the houses, when we look at astrology, how um, there are certain parts in astrology, like specifically through the houses, that show us how we can be more aware and be mindful. You can say mindful, but bring awareness into the attention to the body. If you follow Eckhart Tolle's stuff, you'll know he talks about um, these kind of things. It's going around actually everywhere on the internet. Well, YouTube, namely here on YouTube. And what it is in astrology are the four houses. We call them mutable houses, or there's another name for them, but basically it's the conscious, unconscious, superconscious, and subconscious. Not many people know this, but it's the third, sixth, ninth, and 12th houses. And the reason these are important is because sometimes we go through day-to-day things and we kind of just like, we forget that it's actually like, things that we go through, we wake up, conscious is aware, you're awake. That's the third house. When we when we go through our day-to-day routines, anything that we get used to doing that becomes a habit, that's the sixth house. And then we go into something like an awareness of something, and you're just like, oh, wait a second. These bright ideas that come through, it's like, oh, bam, it's actually learning. It's the ninth house. There's also the house of visions or dreams, aspirations, kind of like, what we want, where we want to head towards. Traditionally speaking, the ninth house is also dreams, like dreams, your dreams, but it's more like downloaded dreams. That's how I feel it is. But then you have the 12th house, which is the subconscious, which is like things that we're not aware of, our habits that we picked up. It's also the house where we picked up things from our parents in the womb, any environmental stuff. It could be, depends. I have Ceres in my 12th house, so that's more of an environmental thing. It's just I just said thing. um Ceres rules epigenetics, so that's something that I particularly have that absorbed influenced me, my external environment, or rather, my when I was in my mom's womb, and she picked things up, and I picked that up. And long story. So those are the four houses that have to do with awareness. So if you have any placements in those houses, kind of go into like if you're new to astrology, usually you start with the house. That's the kind of a rule of thumb in astrology. You have to go with the planet, then you go with the sign that sets the planets in, or the sign that the planets are in, or the signs that the planet or planets are in, is or are in. And then you go into the house or houses. If it's like between, let's say you have two planets and one is in one cusp and the other one's in the before the cusp of a house, and then it goes in behind after the cusp, then they're connected somehow. But if it's close to a cusp anyways, most likely what usually is said is that the planet affects it's read, you read it as if you're reading the next house. If it's like within the 5 degree mark, if you know about degrees now, let's say the cusp of, let's say the fourth house is 20, 21 degrees, right? And then you have a planet there that's, let's say, 19 or even 16 degrees, right? Depending on a minute as well. Usually you want to be as precise as possible. I would read both. Let's say it's in the third house, the planet is in the third house, but then it's in the cusp of the fourth house. So it's like it could be read both, but it feels like for me um it is depends. If there are other planets beside it or even asteroids, then that'll influence that interpretation. But for simplicity's sake, you want to go into what it means in that next house that it's affecting. It's conjunct the cusp, and therefore it's that. Anyways, I kind of digress a little bit with that one. So when it comes to the these houses, the point I'm making in this video is when you coming to these things, especially if it's like the unconscious, the sixth house and the 12th house, these are things that I feel are quite not necessarily important, but it can be vital to understanding the person's unknown behaviors. The sixth house is a little bit easier because it's a little bit more on the physical side. It is the sixth house. It's an earth element, meaning it's influenced by Virgo. Um, Again, you have to look into the sign that currently rules that in that chart you're looking into, whether it's your birth chart or something else. Um, it's you look at the planet that rules the sign that's on the cusp of the sixth house. Same with the 12th house as well. I know that's kind of confusing for those who are new to this. Um, I'll give you an example. Okay, so let's look at my chart. All right. So we have here, I decided to do two types of charts today. First, you have this one is my chart and the progressions. So right now, I'm being made to be more, bring into awareness the uh, unconscious behaviors I have around anger or inflammation, because this is a sixth house right here, right? The cusp is here. Okay, it's in Sagittarius. So that means you look into Jupiter. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and that's just how it works. When you look at cusps and where planets are, you also look at the ruling planet of that sign that is in. It adds flavor to the actual interpretation. What I mean by this is, so let's say you're just looking at the cusp of the sixth house right here. You look into Jupiter. That often is tied to, for me, like digestion. That's the big thing about Jupiter. Jupiter also rules many things. I'm not going to look it up right now. That's a bit around medical astrology, but that's the main thing. So I typically had to work around what I put in my body. So anything I digest, any food that goes into my stomach. So if I'm not getting the right nutrients, or if not getting the right nutrients for this body, what happens is that there tends to be issues with digestion itself and any sort of anything that comes out. And also, I think it also, because it's digestion, I believe it's also tied, I believe so. It's also tied to the bacteria is it's in the stomach. But you notice also there's Capricorn here. So there's huge Capricorn influence in that sixth house as well. So I do have issues with skin. I have eczema. Um, Eczema is not a huge thing. However, here's the funny part. Um, I read in internet that a lot of stuff that influences eczema are, I think a lot of it is like if you're dry weather. What else is there? Many things, but one of the things I noticed was nuts and seeds, and I think it was meat as well. So let's take a look. Um, let's say we looked up eczema, right? Let's see here. Okay, we'll just do the AI one. uh, Allergens, irritants. Okay. Well, I wouldn't say that. I don't know if it's allergens. Was I allergic to something? There's something that caught my eye here. Oh, here we go. Go. Symptoms of eczema, dry skin. Here you go. Immune system, your genes, environment, emotional triggers. So, um, because we're talking about Jupiter here. Let's go back to this chart right here. You look at Jupiter, and is there anything squaring Jupiter? Yes, there is my Neptune right here. So it could be, I'm looking at it from a health perspective, and I'm looking at digestion. Um, Immune system could be part of that, right? The immune system is affected by the gut. Anything that it affects, yeah, you have if you have prebiotics or probiotics in your body, it affects that. And what's this one here? And then Neptune, I believe, is small, like infections. There you go. Yeah, Neptune rules infections, so it squares my infections. So anything I do that is there's a square here. So if I get any sort of infections, particularly pertaining to things that I put in my body, that can trigger the eczema. But the thing is, it makes me itchy instead. But here, you see how there's also the environment? That's funny because when you look at this chart and you look at the environment, 20 right here, right? There's actually a series here. I'll show you where it is actually. Mm, I'll go back to this one. I'll show you how a series is part of this one. Series is, oh, actually, it's right here. It is, sorry. Okay. So we look at, actually, let's go to progressions first. Actually, let's leave it there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it. So it'll be on the next window or the next tab. And then you have here, this one will be progressions instead. Okay, both will have series. Okay, so, but we were looking at the progression chart first. So here we have, um, it's square in my natal house, right? So, but then you have here sextiles to series, Jupiter sextile to series. So that means that anything that I work on that helps me, because the thing about the series is also about nurturing. If you look at the series, mythology of series, Demeter is the original, which is the Greek one, the name for her. Um, she was she lost Persephone half of the year to Hades and got her back the other half of the year. So whenever there was spring and summer, that's when Persephone came back. When it was fall winter, that's when she went into Hades. So that's a symbolism and analogy for this archetype of series of losses and gains, or rather on-ins and off, or like growth and death. Kind of, she's also kind of like cycles as well, particularly with seeds. So it's funny how I mentioned the whole seeds thing here, right? That's interesting because it's really tied to, right? So I'm not allergic to nuts or seeds, but because there's no square to Ceres to Jupiter. But the thing is, we're talking about just the cusp of the sixth house. We're going to Jupiter for this one. So what I'm saying is, you notice how I'm talking about all this stuff. And if I wasn't aware of what I put in my body, I would have worse eczema. Actually, I used to get it a lot in my arms here and all that stuff. I'm kind of getting it on my chest right now, which we can look into this one. Let's see. The chest area is typically like Leo. Is there anything in Leo right now? There was. Mars was here. For the longest time right now, it's getting better, but it's kind of left over. But you see how it's in the last degrees of Leo? This is a transit, by the way. Transits tend to trigger more than progressions, apparently. Mars tends to trigger inflammation. And because this was in the first house, but it's still in Leo here, it's kind of residual, but it's still strong inflammation, kind of almost like it's finalizing its inflammationary effects, whatever it is, right? And we looked at it at 29 degrees. It's actually squaring, this Mars transit is squaring my own natal, excuse me, Uranus. So that means it is actually finishing its job. It's actually what's called it's separating. It's not applying. Applying means it's going towards that aspect, which will be for another time. And so what that means is just means that it's still a challenge, but it's leaving. Okay. Um, so it was in the body, and now it's kind of away from the body. That's the first house right here. So the point I'm making with all this, if you were to look at this one, I've had to become more aware of these things. And if you actually look into, I saw something earlier here. This is a progression chart right here, the greens right here. The other one was transits, so natal and transit. This one's natal and progressions. It means that I'm made to mm, be aware of what causes inflammation in my body. Not that inflammation will be triggered, but it is an area of my life where it's like, how do I deal with anger and things that where it's like, do I need to act all the time? So it's more of an internal thing rather than an actual physical thing. So habits, sixth house, it's a progression. Oh, no, I clicked on it. Okay. It's a progressed, my progressed Mars is now in Capricorn, which is funny because it's like Capricorn rules skin and the knees and bones. So I'm actually having that kind of stuff right now. But there's something else that's hidden there. There's something about anger, which is, by the way, very interesting. A few days ago, someone read for me. They're talking about how I would release anger, which is interesting because Mars is tied to, it's square right now to, it's a, the progressed Mars, my progressed Mars in Capricorn is square to my natal uh, Saturn, but it's also square to the progressed Saturn and Jupiter right here. So that means there's anger that I need to slowly let go. And funny, it's in the third house. The third house is consciousness, bring awareness to it, bring light into something that is unconscious. Okay, I have nothing in this ninth house right now, and there's nothing in the 12th house, as in not progressionally speaking. Um, I didn't see where the transits are. Okay, one second here. So I'm not really looking, I don't need to look into the transits per se, but I might as well do that for this one because that one was progression. Okay, so let's see. There's something in the subconscious, dreams, ideas, thoughts in my head about family. Okay, this is coming through. Yeah, I've been having dreams about thoughts about like security, emotions. Yeah, and Jupiter's actually transiting my 12th house right now. Um, so it's about growth and where I'm going and going moving past those expansions. It's funny because Jupiter is actually in Cancer. It's exalted. That means it works well with the sign. It's actually has an additional power to it. Let's put it that way. Okay. Um, so that's the whole point I'm making right now. The point is when we go into something like this, without over analyzing anything, that these houses kind of bring to our consciousness the things that we probably would maybe take for granted, or if you don't, don't know what it is. It's good to know these things. This is the good thing about knowledge is that I read this. I was it from a movie. I think it was Insidious. There was something about the nun or something like that. It was like a horror movie, kind of horror movie. I don't promote watching horror movies because it's negative energy. Um, unless it's not really horror, unless it's like thriller or something that has lessons in it. That's different. But there's something about this line that just came to me today. So if you say its name, it will become powerless. So in other words, awareness, something that came to mind, which is funny because that's exactly what we were talking about today. Anyways, I hope that really made sense. I kind of babbled on a little bit there, but if you have any questions, comment down below what you learned about these houses, specifically with the sixth, the third, the sixth, the ninth, and the 12th houses. Okay, so that's it for now. I hope that wasn't too much. I'm already at how long is this video now? Sorry for the length of the video, but thank you for watching. Again, if you have any questions, ask and let me know what your experiences are with these houses. And also please like and subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Have a good day. Bye.